for joining us in another video in our series on the emergency response applications released by ServiceNow. This video is going to focus on the emergency response operations application that was released by ServiceNow. So the emergency response operations application was originally created by the Washington State Department of Health and was enhanced by the ServiceNow development team. The purpose of this application, unlike the other three applications, which emergency self-report, exposure management, and emergency outreach, which are really intended to manage and understand the health and well-being of your employee base, the emergency response operations application is used to plan, coordinate, and activate emergency resources in the case of an emergency like COVID-19. So whether you're a healthcare location or a government facility, or maybe a private company that does have their own emergency response operations to adhere to, this application inside of ServiceNow is used to manage those resources to, again, plan, coordinate, and activate those resources in the time of a crisis. So with this application, you start off with what's called the IMT portal. This is the Incident Management Team portal. And here you can have various incidents, right? So we could have a chemical spill or a case of the COVID-19 outbreak, and we can define locations that these incidents are going to be at. And if you are familiar with any of the NIMS or ICS standards, these are standard roles that you would fill in the state of an emergency. So these are the roles that need to be defined at each location here. And then what you can do is you can save this roster out to your deputies or the location chiefs, and then those location chiefs can assign the information in the roster for their specific locations. They can assign the incident commanders, the logistics section chief, the operations section chief. And then these roles can be requested or directly assigned. If the user is requested a role, then they will receive an email asking if they are capable of fulfilling that role, and they'll be able to respond to that email, and that'll all go through the incident management system here. So back on the configuration screen here, we do have a few properties we want to define. We can define the primary email address of the resource unit leader. This is going to be the person who is in charge of assigning resources. This is essentially who is the email going to be from when you get email requests. Everything else here is stuff that we don't have to come and configure, mostly about formatting fields. So we can also come and see all the individual records, deputy roster requests. If we do have requests sent out, the deputies have to come in and approve these requests. This is all done through the portal, but on the back end here, we can actually see these requests. Divisions are NIMS and ICS standard divisions. You may or may not need these in your emergency scenario. Based on your existing emergency plan or the plan that you are creating, you may need some of these divisions involvements. Incident locations, these are locations that specific incidents are broken out in. So these are the actual records that get opened up. We're here on IMT locations. These are the actual location records that we can create. So I can create as many of these emergency locations, or in this case, incident management team locations that I want. These are separate from the ServiceNow locations in the default location table. So these are only available in this emergency response operations app. Positions, again, these positions come predefined. These are out of the box NIMS and standard positions that you do want to fill. If we sort here by core, pull up the ones that are true, these are the apps that generally need to be assigned inside of an emergency when you're following ICS and NIM standards. That's again your incident commander, agency administrator, public information officer. So the same roles that we saw over here inside of our IMT roster, the roles that have to be assigned. We're generally going to know some of the basic roles, like an incident commander. That's likely going to be a role that's already defined in the operations section chief. So essentially, your administrator would open this record up, assign the incident commander. The incident commander would assign the operations section chief, and then the operations section chief would be responsible for assigning the remainder of the roles. And we'll go through a brief demo to see that. And then we have our roles here, and these are the actual roles that correlate back to ServiceNow and what kind of access is granted when these roles are assigned to a user inside of this portal. And then the roster resource and schedule records that all get created when we go through this exercise. So let's go ahead and create a new demo incident. So I'm going to go ahead and go to IMT management and create a new one. And we'll call this COVID-19 response. And the mission number is arbitrary, something we'll want to keep track of within our environment. For the date, I'm going to go ahead and I believe we need to start today. And I'm going to go till the end of the month. And we'll call this an outbreak. And I'm going to change this to 5 days with 2 recommended days of rest. So maximum recommended continuous work days per employee. So location, you can see San Diego is already defined as a default location. We did this when we created the location. We can also add any of these other locations. So I'll go ahead and add Grand Rapids. And here we can see the positions. These are the core positions that need to be defined. Do I want to assign any of these positions at this time? As the administrator, I'm just opening the incident. I don't want to actually do any of this. So I'm going to go ahead and say no. I do not want to assign resources at this time. And here's a submission form. These are the 2. Here's the incident, basic information, the 2 locations, and the positions that need to be assigned in each location. So I'm going to go ahead and submit that. Now, if I go look at my emergency response portal, I'll see this new COVID-19 response. I'll also see COVID-19 response rosters that need to be populated. So I could, for example, come in and directly assign the incident commander, knowing who that's going to be. I'll go ahead and assign myself as the incident commander for the duration of the incident. So we'll go from the start till the end, and we'll add assignment, and we'll save. And now I will be assigned as the incident commander for the remainder of this incident. I'm also going to assign an operations section chief, and I'll assign Abraham Lincoln for the duration, the month, add the assignment, save. And this will actually send an email out to the manager as well as the user stating that they have been assigned. And I can also request. So maybe I want to request a planning section chief. I'm going to go to new here. And if we know which sections we want to define here, we can. If I want to request able, for example, I can go ahead and send that out to the deputies. And then on a per location basis, we would have deputies assigned. I could go to the deputy pending requests. And here we'll see we have a pending request for our deputies to fill. And then I can see that the recommended person was able tutor, but I can go ahead and fill in whoever I feel is appropriate. So I'm going to go ahead and assign able to the location. I'm going to skip the approval process, meaning an email is not going to go to him asking, it's going to assign it. So I'll go ahead and save, and I'll see that that's ready to schedule. Now, when I go back to the roster, I'll notice that this won't actually be scheduled. So I'm going to go back and reload this. And if I go back to the roster, I'll see that it's ready, but it's not assigned. But now if I do a search here, I'll see that Abel is the only one in my list. He was the only one who was recommended. So I'll go ahead and assign Abel to the location Grand Rapids. I'll add assignment and I'll hit OK. And I could change the date. And there we go. So that is how we can create emergency incidents and assign roles and locations. Oh, we can also add some custom roles. We can go into our incident, and as the administrator, I can say, the Grand Rapids location, we also need to add a social media officer. Who doesn't, oh, I already have it, but who doesn't need a social media officer added to that location, especially nowadays? Or maybe another public information officer. You can add, and these are all more built-in um, NIMS and ICS roles, or standard, I should say, roles that we can use to define in the state of an emergency. All right, thank you very much.